The desert colony of Aran was quiet under the pale light of its twin moons. The settlement was small, built with sand-colored walls to blend with the endless dunes. For many years, the people of Aran had lived in the shadow of the black pyramid that stood on the horizon. The pyramid was tall and smooth, made of a stone no one could break or mark. No one knew who built it or why it was there. Other species in the galaxy warned the settlers to stay away from it, calling it cursed, but humans were drawn to it. They did not fear mysteries. They studied it from a distance, waiting for the day they might understand it. On this night, the pyramid was still there, rising like a dark tooth above the golden sand. Yet when the sun climbed the horizon in the morning, the settlers gasped. The pyramid was gone. Not broken, not collapsed, not stolen. Simply gone. In its place, there was only open desert, the sand smooth and untouched as if nothing had ever stood there. Word spread quickly through the settlement. Farmers left their fields. Traders stopped their work. Children ran to the edge of the dunes, staring at the empty horizon. The pyramid had been a landmark, a silent guardian. To see it vanish overnight shook everyone. Mira, a young surveyor, was one of the first to reach the site. She had been mapping the desert for months, marking how the dunes shifted with the winds. She knew every ridge and hollow of this land, and she knew the pyramid's shadow better than most. Now she stood in the blazing sunlight, staring at nothing but sand. Her boots sank slightly as she stepped forward. The ground felt soft, too soft for this part of the desert. She knelt and ran her hand through the grains. The sand moved strangely as if alive, slipping through her fingers like water. Behind her, a small crowd gathered. Some whispered that the pyramid had been taken by gods. Others claimed it was never real at all, just a trick of the light. Mira did not believe either. She knew the land, and she knew what she had seen with her own eyes. Rin, the settlement's elder, joined her at the site. His voice carried over the restless crowd. The pyramid was a test, he said. It waited here for those brave enough to face it. Now it has chosen to move. The words stirred unease. People asked where it had gone, what it wanted, and whether it would return. Rin offered no answers. He looked to Mira and a few others who stood silently, their eyes fixed on the horizon. As the sun rose higher, the desert began to change. The wind shifted and the dunes seemed to move faster than before. Waves of sand rolled across the flat land, erasing footprints within minutes. The ground shimmered as if the air itself carried secrets. Mira felt a pulse under her boots, faint but steady, like the beat of a hidden heart. That night the settlers gathered in the square to discuss what to do. Fear clashed with curiosity. Many argued they should stay away, rebuild their lives, and leave the pyramid's mystery buried. Others, fewer in number but stronger in spirit, believed they must search for answers. Humans had crossed oceans and stars not to turn away from the unknown, but to meet it. Mira spoke quietly but firmly. The desert is speaking. The pyramid is not gone. It has only changed its place. If we follow the signs, we will find it again. Her words carried weight, for she had walked the dunes longer than anyone. The council agreed to send a small team at dawn. Mira would lead, joined by 3 others. Kale, a farmer who knew how to endure harsh land. Soren, a trader skilled in reading patterns and numbers. And Lyra, a healer with calm courage. None of them were soldiers, yet all of them carried the same human trait that had brought their kind across the stars: persistence. That night, Mira stood on the edge of the desert once more. The wind howled across the sands, carrying whispers that seemed to come from beneath the surface. She felt both fear and excitement, for she knew the journey ahead would not be simple. The pyramid had vanished, but its absence was not an ending. It was the beginning of a call, and humanity was ready to answer. The next morning, as the sun painted the dunes in gold, the 4 explorers set out. Behind them, the colony watched in silence. Ahead of them stretched the endless shifting sands, hiding secrets that had waited longer than memory. The pyramid was gone, but it had left a trail for those who dared to seek. The desert stretched wide in every direction, endless waves of gold and red under the burning sun. Mira led the way, her eyes scanning the horizon, her boots sinking with each step into the hot sand. Behind her walked Kale, Soren, and Lyra, each carrying a pack of supplies. The colony had given them little more than water, dried food, and a promise of safe return. No one knew what they would face, but everyone knew the journey had to begin. From the start, the desert felt strange. It was not the same land Mira had mapped for months. The dunes seemed to shift more quickly than before, as if unseen hands pushed them around. The wind carried low murmurs, not loud enough to call voices, yet enough to unsettle the mind. Cale was the first to speak as they moved deeper. "These dunes were not here last week," he said, pointing to a tall ridge. "I used to bring my herd close to this area. Now the land feels new." Mira nodded. "It is changing faster. The pyramid's disappearance has stirred the desert." Soren adjusted the strap of his pack, his eyes narrow as he studied the sand. He was a trader, more used to markets and numbers than wandering under the open sun, but his mind was sharp. "The wind cannot explain all this," he said. "The dunes are forming patterns. Look closely. They fall in lines, almost like writing." The others stopped and followed his gaze. Indeed, the ridges did not curve like natural dunes, but seemed to stretch in arcs that bent toward the east. Lyra, quiet until now, touched the sand gently with her hand. "It feels warm, almost alive," she whispered. They continued east, following the strange alignments. Hours passed, the sun climbing higher, the air growing heavier. Heat waves shimmered in the distance, blurring the horizon, yet the explorers pressed forward. Where others might turn back, humans had always chosen to walk further. By midday, their water flasks were half empty. The desert gave no mercy. Cale wiped sweat from his brow and muttered, "This land is testing us." Mira kept her voice calm. "The pyramid wants to be found. If it vanished, it left signs behind. We just have to see them." Her words steadied the group. They walked on, resting only when the sun burned too hot to stand. At those moments, they huddled under thin cloths stretched between their packs, drinking slowly, sharing silence. Each felt the weight of the task, yet none suggested turning back. On the second evening, just as the sun sank into the horizon, the desert revealed its first clue. The wind died suddenly and the air grew still. Ahead of them, the sand began to ripple as if something moved beneath the surface. The explorers froze, staring as a circle of ground collapsed, leaving a shallow pit. From the center of the pit, faint blue light rose like smoke. They approached carefully. Soren crouched at the edge and placed a stone into the pit. It sank quickly into the sand, vanishing without a sound. "Not natural," he murmured. "The sand swallows what touches it." Mira's eyes shone in the dim light. "It is a marker," she said. "The pyramid is showing us the way." Kyle frowned. "Or it is warning us." But Mira did not step back. She placed her palm above the glowing sand. The light pulsed once as if answering her. Lyra drew closer and whispered, "It knows we are here." That night they set camp near the pit, though no one slept easily. The glowing sand flickered gently, casting soft light on their faces. They took turns keeping watch, each listening to the faint hum that seemed to rise from the desert floor. During her watch, Mira thought of the colony. She knew many there feared the pyramid, believing its vanishing to be a curse. Yet deep inside she felt the opposite. The pyramid was not a curse but an invitation, and they had been chosen to follow it. The next day the journey grew harder. The dunes rose taller, the sand shifting under their feet like waves. At times they slid back with every step, yet they kept moving. Each time they paused, Mira looked back at the glowing pit, which now lay far behind them. Ahead she noticed more faint lights, scattered across the desert like a trail of stars buried beneath the sand. By the third day, the explorers began to feel the desert pressing on their minds. Shapes appeared at the edge of their vision. Some looked like tall figures made of dust. Others seemed like shadows of the vanished pyramid itself, flickering and then fading. Cale cursed under his breath, but Mira reminded them gently, "The desert is testing our resolve. We must trust what is real, trust each other." Her words held them steady again. As the sun fell behind the dunes on the fourth day, they reached a wide hollow where the sand formed a spiral, curling inward like a vast shell. At the center of the spiral, the ground shimmered with the same blue light as the first pit, only stronger, brighter, alive. The four explorers stood at the edge of the spiral, their hearts pounding. This was no natural shape. The desert itself had been shaped into a sign. Soren's voice was hushed. "The pyramid is guiding us. We are walking inside its design." Lyra gripped her pack tightly. "If this is the beginning, what waits at the end?" Mira stepped forward, her eyes never leaving the glowing center. "We will find out. That is why we came. The desert is no longer empty. It is a path, and we are meant to walk it." The shifting sands whispered around them as if listening. The spiral glowed brighter, and the team prepared to move deeper into the heart of a mystery that had waited longer than memory itself. The spiral of glowing sand faded behind them as the explorers pressed forward. The desert stretched wider, but something had changed. It no longer felt like empty land. Every dune seemed alive, shifting and rolling with purpose. The four travelers walked carefully, their eyes fixed on the horizon, but their hearts uneasy. Mira led as always, her steps steady, though her thoughts were restless. She could not ignore the way the dunes moved. They did not wait for the wind. They shifted on their own, bending and rising as though the desert itself was breathing. Kyle muttered under his breath, "This land is not natural. It moves like a living thing." Soren studied the ridges carefully. He had a sharp eye for patterns, and what he saw troubled him. "Look at the way they form," he said. "The dunes fall in arcs, not random. They curve like waves, as if the desert is guiding us along a path." Lyra, walking at the rear, pressed her hand over her chest as though calming her heartbeat. "If the desert guides, then who controls it?" she asked softly. The group fell silent. The only sound was the hiss of sand sliding down the slopes as the dunes rearranged themselves again and again. By midday, the sun was merciless. Heat rose in waves from the ground, making the air shimmer like liquid. The explorers' water flasks grew lighter, but they did not stop. They moved carefully, keeping close, each step sinking deep into the restless sand. Soon they reached a wide stretch where the ground began to tilt. At first it seemed like another ridge, but Mira realized it was no ordinary slope. The whole dune was sliding sideways as though pulled by invisible hands. The ground beneath them shifted suddenly, and Kyle almost lost his balance. He caught himself with a sharp breath. "This land wants to swallow us," he said grimly. Mira shook her head. "Not swallow, test." Her voice carried calm, though inside she felt the same unease. Still, she refused to let fear rule them. She pointed ahead where the dunes curved in a long corridor. "We go that way. Stay close." They followed her through the moving corridor. Walls of sand rose on both sides, shifting constantly, the grains running like water. Every few steps they slid backward, yet they pressed on. Soren's sharp mind caught another detail. "Do you see it?" he asked. "The walls rise and fall in rhythm. It is not chaos. It is like a heartbeat," Lyra whispered. "Then the desert is alive." The words settled heavily over them. Alive or not, the land carried intention. The corridor stretched longer, twisting like a serpent. The explorers lost sense of distance. The sun above seemed locked in place, refusing to sink. Hours passed, though time itself felt uncertain. Finally, as the corridor curved one last time, they stumbled into a wide basin. Here the desert grew even stranger. The ground was flat, smoother than any sand they had seen, as if polished by unseen forces. Above it, the air shimmered, bending light in shifting colors. The basin looked like a giant mirror reflecting the sky, yet their reflections were missing. Cale crouched and touched the ground. His hand sank a little, though the surface felt firm. "It is not sand, not stone," he muttered. "Something in between." Mira studied the strange basin carefully. She felt a hum beneath her boots, faint but steady, like the sound of a distant drum. "This is part of the pyramid," she said quietly. "We are walking inside its reach, even if it is hidden under the dunes." The others exchanged uneasy glances, but they trusted her judgment. They crossed the basin slowly, their shadows stretched long behind them. Halfway across, the ground rippled. Waves moved under their feet, and the explorers froze. The ripples grew stronger until the basin began to shift, carrying them backward like a river of sand. They dug their boots in, leaning forward, pushing against the moving floor. Every step forward took all their strength. Lyra stumbled once, but Cale caught her arm and pulled her upright. "Do not stop," Mira urged. "Keep moving, no matter how the ground fights." Her voice gave them strength. Step by step they pressed forward, the ground sliding beneath them like a tide. At last, after what felt like endless struggle, they reached the far side. The ground stilled the moment they stepped onto the firm sand again. Behind them, the basin lay quiet, as if nothing had happened. They rested, breathing hard, sweat running down their faces. Soren looked back at the basin and shook his head. "This place is not only testing us, it is shaping us, forcing us to fight against it." Mira's gaze was fixed ahead. "That is the purpose. The pyramid is watching. It wants to know who we are." That night they camped on a high dune overlooking the basin. The stars burned bright above, though the ground below glowed faintly with hidden light. The desert did not sleep. The dunes shifted slowly around their camp, rearranging themselves while the explorers rested. Mira lay awake, staring at the sky. She thought of her colony far behind, the people waiting for answers. She thought of the vanished pyramid and of the desert that moved with a will of its own. For the first time, she understood why other species had feared this place. Yet she also knew why humans could not walk away. In the morning, as the first rays of sun lit the dunes, Mira rose and looked at her team. The desert has shown us its strength. Tomorrow it will show us its secrets. We cannot stop here. The others nodded, their resolve renewed. The desert was alive, shifting, and filled with trials. But humans had always thrived against the impossible. Together they prepared to walk further into the moving desert, where the next mystery awaited. The sun rose with sharp light, painting the dunes in shades of fire and gold. The explorers left their camp at dawn, their footsteps sinking into the restless desert. Mira walked at the front, her eyes scanning for signs, her mind alert to every shift of the land. Behind her, Kale, Soren, and Lyra followed with quiet determination. The moving desert had tested their strength, but Mira believed the real secret still waited ahead. The pyramid had vanished, yet its presence lingered in every ripple of sand. She was certain it was not gone, only hidden. By midday they reached a ridge taller than the others. From its crest they saw a valley below, shadowed by cliffs of dark stone. It was strange to see stone at all in this endless desert, for most of the land was made only of shifting sand. The cliffs looked unnatural, as though cut by hands long ago. Kale squinted down at the valley. This place does not belong here. The desert tried to hide it, but it could not. Soren studied the lines of the cliffs. The cuts are too straight. This was shaped. Something waits inside. The group descended into the valley carefully. The air grew cooler in the shadow of the cliffs, and the ground felt firmer beneath their boots. For the first time in days, the sand did not move. The silence pressed heavy around them, as though the land itself held its breath. At the base of the cliffs, they found what they had been searching for. A staircase sank into the earth, half buried by sand, each step made of the same black stone as the vanished pyramid. The stairs were wide, carved with faint symbols that glowed faintly blue in the dim light. Mira touched one of the steps gently, feeling the smooth surface. "This is the pyramid," she whispered. It did not vanish. It sank beneath the desert. Lyra's voice trembled with awe. "Then it waits for us to enter." Kyle frowned, his hand resting on the strap of his pack. "Or it waits to trap us," but no one turned away. They had come too far to stop. The explorers began their descent. The steps were long and steep, sinking deeper into darkness. The glow of the symbols lit their way, casting pale blue light across the walls. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became, until even the sound of their footsteps seemed swallowed by silence. At the bottom, they entered a wide chamber. The ceiling stretched high above, supported by massive pillars carved with the same glowing symbols. The walls shimmered faintly, as if alive with hidden energy. In the center of the chamber stood a doorway, its frame carved in perfect lines, though no door filled it. Beyond lay a corridor, dark and endless. Soren approached the doorway carefully. He held a small stone in his hand, tossing it gently into the corridor. The stone vanished before touching the ground. A ripple passed across the air like water disturbed by a wave. "It is not empty," he said. "It is a veil." Mira stepped forward. She placed her hand on the doorway's edge, feeling warmth pulsing through the stone. Her heart beat faster. "The pyramid is watching," she said softly. "It wants us to pass through." Lyra's eyes were wide, but her voice was calm. "Then we go together." One by one they stepped into the doorway. For a moment the world bent around them, colors twisting, sound vanishing. Then they stumbled out into another chamber larger than the first. The new chamber was alive with shifting floors. The ground moved in slow patterns, sliding blocks of stone that formed and reformed pathways. Some blocks rose high like steps, while others sank into darkness. The explorers watched in silence as the floor rearranged itself again, creating a new pattern. Kale muttered, "It changes like the desert." "It wants to test us again." Mira nodded. "Yes, the desert was the first trial. This is the second." They waited, watching the floor shift until it stilled once more. Then Mira stepped forward onto the first block. It held firm. She looked back at the others. "We must trust each step." "Do not look back," the others followed. They moved carefully, timing their steps with the shifting rhythm of the floor. Sometimes a block slid away just as they left it, vanishing into a dark pit below. Other times a path opened only for seconds before sealing again. It was not strength that carried them, but focus and trust. At one point Lyra slipped, her foot sliding onto a sinking block. Cale grabbed her arm and pulled her back before it fell. The pit below swallowed the stone without a sound, endless and cold. Lyra's breath shook, but she whispered, "Thank you," and pressed forward. They continued across the moving floor until at last they reached the far side. Another doorway waited there, glowing faintly like a star. The explorers stood together, their faces weary but strong. Soren looked back at the chamber. "The pyramid is not trying to kill us. It wants to know if we can work as one." Mira placed her hand on the glowing frame. "Then we have passed its first judgment. Ahead lies another." The doorway shimmered, waiting. The explorers stepped forward without fear. Whatever trials lay beyond, they knew they were not walking as strangers but as one. The pyramid had hidden itself beneath the sands, but now it was opening its secrets, and humanity, stubborn and unyielding, would not turn away. The next chamber was darker than any they had entered. The walls stretched high above, smooth and black, reflecting faint blue light from the symbols engraved along the floor. The explorers stepped inside cautiously, feeling the chill in the air, though no wind blew. The floor beneath their boots was uneven, and as they moved it shifted slightly, rising and falling like waves on a calm sea. Mira led the way, her eyes scanning for the safest path. "Watch every step," she said. "The floor changes constantly. One wrong move could set us back." Cale frowned as he stepped onto a large stone block. "It is like the desert, but more dangerous. At least in the dunes we could see the shifts. Here the ground moves under our feet without warning." Soren examined the glowing symbols etched into the floor. "These markings are instructions. I think they tell us which blocks are stable and which are not. We just have to understand the rhythm." Lyra stayed close to Mira, her hands tight on her pack straps. "Then we follow the pattern carefully," she whispered. "We cannot rush." The chamber seemed alive. Blocks of stone rose from the floor, moved sideways and sank into deep pits. Sometimes a passage appeared for only a few moments before vanishing again. The explorers took their time, stepping with caution, timing each move as if they were dancing to an invisible rhythm. At one point, a section of the floor shifted suddenly under Cale's feet. He stumbled, but Soren reached out and grabbed his arm, pulling him back just before he fell into a dark pit below. Cale's breath shook, but he nodded, understanding the lesson. Trust and teamwork were more important than speed or strength. Mira studied the room closely. "The pyramid is testing more than our feet," she said. "It tests our minds, our patience, and our courage. Each shift teaches us to observe, to think, and to act together." The explorers moved forward block by block. The floor sometimes tilted sharply, forcing them to lean and balance carefully. At other times, the ground beneath them sank slightly, creating small gaps they had to leap across. The rhythm of the chamber became familiar. They learned to predict the subtle rises and falls, understanding the silent language of the moving stones. Hours passed, though it felt much longer. Their muscles ached. Their hands were scraped from brushing against rough stone, and their feet were sore. Yet no one stopped. The chamber demanded endurance, but the explorers had already proven their resilience in the desert and the hidden passage. Soren paused at one glowing symbol and studied it carefully. "These shapes," he said, "they are like a sequence. Step correctly and the floor guides you. Step wrong and it forces you back. The pyramid is teaching us precision." Lyra nodded, stepping carefully to follow the sequence. "Then we must be patient. Patience and focus will see us through." Cale adjusted his stance. "And courage. We cannot let fear rule us. If we freeze, the floor will take advantage." Mira smiled slightly. "Exactly. The pyramid is not cruel. It is demanding. It wants to know what we are made of." The explorers continued, moving slowly but steadily. Sometimes they had to pause and wait for blocks to rise or sink into place. The chamber reshaped itself as they advanced, creating new challenges with every step. But each time they succeeded, they felt stronger, more connected, and more certain of their path. At one point, they reached a wide pit. Blocks jutted up like stepping stones, but they moved in shifting patterns, disappearing beneath their feet if they lingered too long. Mira took a deep breath and stepped onto the first stone. She counted silently, timing her movement. One by one, the others followed, their steps in perfect harmony. Even when a block sank beneath Kyle, he leapt to the next in time, guided by Mira's calm direction. At last, after what felt like endless effort, they reached the far side of the chamber. The floor stilled, the blocks locked into place, and a doorway appeared ahead, glowing with the same pale blue light as the symbols. The explorers stood together, breathing heavily but triumphant. Mira turned to her team. "We have passed the trial," she said quietly. "The pyramid has seen our courage, our patience, and our trust in one another. This is what it seeks. It tests not only strength but the spirit." Soren exhaled, wiping sweat from his brow. "I never imagined a floor could teach so much," he said with a small laugh. "It is alive in its own way." Lyra nodded, her face calm but shining with pride. "It wanted to see if we would work as one. And we did." Kyle looked back at the chamber, still glowing faintly. The desert, the hidden passage, and now this. Everything led here. The pyramid wants to know if humans can face the impossible and keep moving forward. Mira placed her hand on the glowing doorway. "We have shown that. Whatever lies beyond this door, we will face it together. The pyramid cannot test our spirit anymore. It has been proven." The four explorers stepped through the doorway into the next chamber. A new mystery awaited them, but they did not hesitate. Each had learned the lessons of the desert, the moving sands, and the shifting floors. Each had grown stronger, more aware, and more united. The pyramid's trials were not over. But the humans had already shown the quality that made their species unique: persistence, courage, and the ability to face fear and uncertainty without turning away. And now, they were ready for whatever lay beyond. The doorway led them into a chamber unlike any they had seen before. The air was cool and still, and a faint hum vibrated through the walls. Light shimmered from hundreds of symbols etched into the black stone, moving like liquid across the surface. The explorers paused at the threshold, sensing a presence that was not human. Mira took a deep breath. "This is it," she said quietly. "The pyramid has a guardian. It will judge us now." As they stepped forward, the symbols brightened, forming shapes that floated in the air like holograms. Slowly, they came together to form a figure. It was tall, humanoid in shape but made entirely of the glowing symbols. Its face held no features, yet Mira felt its gaze upon them. "Who are you?" Cale asked, his voice steady despite the awe and fear in his chest. The figure did not speak, yet a voice echoed in their minds. It was calm, deep, and clear. "I am the Keeper," it said. "I guard the knowledge of those who came before. The pyramid is my charge, and I test those who seek its secrets." Soren stepped forward. "We have passed the trials of the desert and the shifting floors. We have endured and remained united." "Is this enough?" The Keeper's form pulsed and its voice responded. "Endurance alone is not enough. Many have walked these paths and failed. Only those who act with courage, wisdom, and cooperation are worthy. You have shown these qualities, yet one final choice remains." Mira exchanged a glance with the others. "A choice?" she asked. The Keeper extended an arm, and a small pedestal rose from the ground. On it rested a glowing orb. Symbols swirled within, moving like stars in a miniature galaxy. "This orb contains the knowledge of the lost civilizations," the Keeper said. "It is a gift for those who can prove their intent. Choose wisely. One may take the knowledge for themselves, or you may share it with all humanity. The decision will test your unity and your purpose." Lyra's eyes widened. "We must share it," she whispered. "It is not for one person alone. That is why we were able to reach this place." Cale nodded, though he hesitated. "But what if one of us decides differently?" Mira stepped closer to the pedestal, her gaze fixed on the swirling light. She could feel the knowledge calling, but she knew the Keeper's test was more than desire. It was a test of character, not greed. "We face it together," she said. "No one takes alone. We decide as one." The Keeper pulsed in acknowledgement. "Your unity is rare. Many species have sought this knowledge, yet they were divided by fear or selfishness. You are human, and that is why you have reached me." Soren breathed deeply. "Then we will choose to share," he said. "With everyone who comes after us, so the lessons are not lost." The Keeper tilted its head, and the chamber brightened. The symbols on its body moved faster, creating shapes and patterns that filled the room. A warmth spread through the explorers, as though the knowledge itself recognized their choice. The orb rose from the pedestal and hovered before them. Light poured from it, touching each of them gently. Images and sounds filled their minds. They saw star systems long vanished, civilizations that had built wonders and vanished into history, and technologies beyond imagination. They felt the hopes, struggles, and wisdom of countless generations. It was overwhelming, yet each explorer remained focused. They looked at one another, sharing silent agreement. This knowledge was not theirs alone. It was a gift meant to awaken humanity, to help them grow and prepare for the challenges of the universe. Mira spoke softly. "We understand. We will honor it." The keeper's voice filled the chamber once more. "You have chosen wisely. The trials have measured not only your skill and endurance, but your spirit. You have proven that humanity possesses the courage and unity to face the unknown. Take this knowledge and use it to guide your people. Others will watch, and they will learn what humans can achieve." As the words faded, the orb split into 4 smaller orbs, each glowing with the same swirling light. The explorers took one each, feeling the weight of responsibility settle in their hands. It was heavy, not in body but in purpose. They carried the wisdom of entire civilizations, meant to guide their own species toward a brighter future. Kale looked at Mira. "We made the right choice," he said quietly. Mira nodded. "Together we did. That is what the keeper wanted to see." Lyra smiled, brushing her hand over her orb. "It feels alive," she said, "like it knows we will not waste it." Soren studied the chamber one last time. "And the keeper?" he asked. The figure of the keeper began to fade, the symbols dispersing into the walls and floor. "I will remain," its voice echoed in their minds. "The pyramid watches always. When the universe seeks those who are worthy, it will open again. You are the first in many cycles to prove that humans can rise to the challenge." The chamber dimmed, leaving the explorers with only their orbs and the knowledge of countless worlds. They turned toward the exit, hearts steady, minds filled with purpose. The trials were complete. They had faced fear, shifting sands, and moving floors. They had chosen unity over selfishness, and now they carried a gift that would shape the future of humanity. Stepping out of the hidden chamber, Mira looked at her companions. "We go home," she said, "and we share what we have learned. This is only the beginning." The 4 explorers moved through the pyramid's hidden passages toward the surface, their steps sure and confident. The desert outside seemed calmer now, as if acknowledging their achievement. The pyramid had tested them, and humans had shown why their spirit could not be underestimated. The explorers emerged from the pyramid's hidden chambers, just as the first light of dawn painted the desert in shades of gold and rose. The air was still and the dunes seemed calm, as if the land itself waited to see what the humans would do next. Mira led the group, her steps steady, her heart filled with purpose. Behind her, Kale, Soren, and Lyra carried their orbs carefully, each aware of the immense knowledge they now held. The desert no longer felt hostile. The shifting sands which had tested them for days now seemed to part gently for their passage. Mira noticed it immediately. Every step they took left a small trail of glowing patterns in the sand, faint at first but visible in the early light. It was as if the desert acknowledged their triumph and guided them home. Kale looked around, awe in his eyes. "The desert. It feels alive but friendly now. It is like it recognizes us." Soren studied the glowing traces. "Not just alive. It is responding to our actions. It tested us and now it moves in harmony with us." Lyra touched her orb gently. "The knowledge inside this is meant to guide humanity, and somehow the desert knows we are worthy of it." Mira smiled at her companions. Everything we faced, the moving dunes, the hidden passage, the shifting floors, and the keeper, was to prepare us. The pyramid's trials were not just about strength or skill. They were about our spirit, our courage, and our unity. They continued across the desert, their pace slow but confident. Behind them, the dunes shimmered and rolled gently, revealing traces of hidden patterns that no other species could understand. The desert seemed to open a path specifically for humans. Birds and small creatures emerged from the shadows, curious and unafraid. The explorers noticed that even the air felt lighter, carrying a faint hum that resonated with the rhythm of their steps. Hours passed, yet the humans did not falter. Each step reinforced their bond. Each glance strengthened their trust. They had endured fear, uncertainty, and exhaustion. The trials had tested not only their bodies but their minds and hearts. Together they had passed. Together they carried the knowledge of civilizations long gone. As they approached the horizon, the colony of Aaron came into view. The settlement looked small from a distance, the sand-colored buildings blending into the desert, yet it was alive with movement. Settlers gathered at the edge of the dunes, eyes wide with curiosity and hope. Word of the pyramids vanishing had spread quickly, and many feared that whoever ventured into the desert might never return. But the four explorers approached confidently, their orbs glowing faintly. The settlers watched in silence, a mixture of awe and relief spreading through the crowd. Mira raised her hand in greeting, and Kale, Soren, and Lyra followed. The elders of the colony stepped forward. "You have returned," one said, voice shaking with emotion. "We feared the desert had taken you." Mira held up her orb. "We have returned, and we bring knowledge. The pyramid has tested us, and we have passed. This is not just for us, but for all of humanity." The crowd gasped as the light from the orb spread, faint symbols dancing in the air, invisible to anyone who lacked the understanding to read them. The knowledge within was immense, filled with wisdom, technologies, and stories of civilizations that had vanished from the galaxy. Yet the explorers did not keep it for themselves. They had chosen unity and purpose, and now the gift would benefit everyone. Kale spoke to the settlers. "We faced the desert, the hidden passage, and the shifting floors. Each challenge taught us courage and patience. We learned to trust each other, and that is what allowed us to succeed." Soren added, "The keeper of the pyramid tested us in the final chamber. It gave us this knowledge not because we were strong, but because we chose to share and work together." Lyra smiled, her voice calm and steady. "The pyramid, the desert, and the keeper all showed us one thing. Humans have the courage to face the unknown, and the wisdom to use knowledge for the good of all." Mira looked at the horizon, where the dunes shimmered in the morning sun. "The desert has risen and fallen with us. The pyramid has vanished and returned. And humanity has proven its spirit. This is why others will remember us and why the galaxy must take notice." The settlers watched as the explorers moved among them, showing the orbs, sharing the wisdom they held. The dunes around the colony shifted gently, no longer a threat but a silent protector. Birds returned to the sky, and small creatures moved freely across the sand. The desert, which had seemed endless and hostile, now appeared alive with quiet harmony. Mira turned to her companions. "The pyramid may call others in the future, but we have shown what humans can do. Courage, unity, and persistence, these are our greatest strengths. Nothing can stop us when we act together." As the sun climbed higher, the explorers began to teach the settlers what they had learned. The orbs pulsed with gentle light, sharing knowledge not only of technology but of patience, teamwork, and courage. Humanity had faced a mystery that no other species had dared to solve. They had emerged not only with knowledge but with the proof of their spirit. The desert, the shifting sands, and the vanished pyramid had all been witnesses. They had tested humanity and found it strong, united, and unyielding. The knowledge was shared, the lessons remembered, and the explorers' names would be spoken in the colony for generations. And in the distance, the dunes shimmered once more, as if acknowledging the triumph of humans. In a galaxy full of hesitation, humans had risen to the challenge. They had faced the unknown, passed the trials, and carried the gift of wisdom back to their people. The rising sands no longer threatened them. They celebrated them,